Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And today is our monthly coaching moments with Ryan DiApril. Now, if you're not familiar with Ryan, or if you're new to our show, Ryan comes on every month to give our listeners and our viewers a coaching moment and a coaching session. Well, let me tell you about Ryan. Ryan DiApril is a progressive thought leader focused on providing for his agents and staff at DiApril Properties. His strengths are his motivational skills, his coaching style, and his dedication to training. He has 14 offices throughout Chicagoland, also offices in Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan, with hundreds and hundreds of top real estate producers. DiApril Properties is also a coaching company with 8 strategic coaches who work week in and week out with each agent, individually focused on business planning, coaching, and accountability. Now, if you'd like to take your career to the next level, or if you're just not getting the attention you need from your existing firm, check out DiApril Properties. Visit DiApril, that's DAPRILE, properties.com. Again, DiAprilProperties.com. We should also mention Ryan also owns a lending company called Midwest Lending. So if you have any lending needs or you're looking to build a relationship with a great loan officer, you can always check out Midwest Lending, and also Midwest Title for looking for a good title company. So he's got a lot of businesses, and we are thrilled to have him on the show. Welcome again, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, DJ. It's good to talk to you again. And you got me in a car again, so no FaceTime video there. Sorry about that.
No problem. Ryan and I were just talking just before the show because I just saw this headline, and my first reaction was, I have never heard of this company yet. I thought it would be just a neat way to start off our show, just to get your perspective on this as somebody who owns a lending company. So I just saw Bettercom, which apparently is I believe an online mortgage lender, just announced they were laying off 900 employees here in one swoop. So it's making the news because of the size of that cut. And just curious, as somebody who is involved in that business, sort of your thoughts about what's going on in the mortgage industry.
Well, you're seeing across the board, mortgage companies starting to cut down on staff. There's a little bit more to this story, right, with how they did it, which is horrendous. It sounds like when you and I were chatting about it, we'll talk about that in a second.
Sure.
The approach that they did, because, these are human beings. But there is, 2020 and 21 was borderline obnoxious how busy it was in the mortgage lending business. And it was a fight for talent. And people that were in, certain roles at a certain amount of money were being offered double to be taken away and go somewhere else. And it happened. And companies were struggling looking for people because they had so much business. And unfortunately now, 18 months later, you were hearing about mass layoffs because the business just isn't there. And, supply and demand is, it's real, right? And when the demand's not there, they start to lay off these people. Now, how this company did it, Better.com, I believe is the name, right?
Yep.
And you were telling me they did it on a Zoom call.
Yeah, they did it to all 900 employees simultaneously, which is now that part of the story is really being focused on in the news, which is interesting. It is upsetting.
Yeah, that's, you should be thinking these things through, but, that's too bad. And, that's a lot of emotion runs through me when I hear something like that. And being in, our type of roles where, you eat what you kill, and also being in our industry, right, real estate, mortgage lending, there's a ton of emotion that comes into this, and that will just kind of just take you to a whole other level. That's why I try to always coach, LOs, agents, and whatnot on the importance of networking. And online leads, consumer direct, it's good at a certain time in a certain place. It's not a bad compliment to your business, but you don't want it to be the core of your business because, when somebody gives, somebody can take it away, and you're better off, relying on yourself and the power of your network and focusing on the activities to make your network attracted to you so that they come for you for that advice. But it's it's tragic. It's very too bad. And it's going around, some of the biggest mortgage companies out there, maybe not in the news, but in the industry news that we see, where they're reporting massive layoffs that are happening out there. And that's tough.
And I almost wonder if there's a good sort of action step for our listeners who are agents, mostly, who maybe see news like this. They start thinking, well, this sort of makes sense. Our business was so busy, and so they had to staff up, and maybe now the lending world has dropped in popularity just in the immediate moment, or it's the holidays and people aren't refinancing or purchasing as much. But or it's just the market slowed down. So as you mentioned, supply and demand. And I'm wondering if there is an action step. So an agent might say, well, gosh, I don't want this to happen to my clients because, and I don't know, maybe it's a good time to have a conversation with your loan officer just to see how's the company doing, whoever company you work with.
Yeah. So a lot of our real estate agents, right. And I really have my finger on the pulse of this because I own a mortgage company, but then I see my agents and they're on the other side, the listing side or whatnot, and they're working with lenders from all over the place. And they really cringe when you get these consumer direct companies on the other end.
Yeah.
And your real estate agents want to have a relationship with a lender. I coach loan officers, and it is one of the most scalable businesses, I believe. I think real estate's difficult to scale. They have these models of scaling it, and I don't want to get into that conversation. We could talk about that later, but real estate is a high relationship type business, which makes it a little bit more difficult to scale. You could really scale lending without having to multiply yourself. And one of the reason being is there's always two real estate agents on a deal.
Yeah.
And I coach our loan officers. I'm like, if you are not calling an agent twice a week, both agents twice a week, you are missing the lowest hanging fruit in this business. And they appreciate it so much, even if they don't call you back. And I see, and I'm not going to name, I'm going to bite my tongue here. I'm not going to name any companies, but I see large mortgage companies out there and our agents just saying, please avoid these people as much as you can. And they're actually talking their clients out of having to use them because they're call centers.
Yeah.
And, they are, and mortgage lending is not simple. It's not a manufacturing process. It's a jobber. Every
and
person
almost
is different.
And whatever documentation that your client may have needed to provide to the lending institution, the loan officer at the beginning of the transaction, even though that's what was needed for the pre-qualification letter and even whatever, once the contract's accepted, there's going to be a wrinkle in it at some point down the road before the closing where all of a sudden there will be some sort of scramble for paperwork. And I think that's where it's like, okay, thank God I have a great loan officer on top of this, because there's always some sort of wrinkle.
There is. And that's one of the reasons why loan officers have to stay on every deal and communicate, because not only that, it's, you have the first, let's just pick dates. December 1st, we're going to go under contract and we're going to close December 30th. Great. Right. Now, everybody, attorney wants to order title. You know when they're going to order title? A week before closing. Well,
Right.
Wait a minute. We have clear to close. We need that now. The borrower will get the 5th K1 that they have, but they'll get it 4 days before closing. Okay, but we're not clear to close. So, a lender is so dependent on so many different parties, and they are the scapegoat of the experience.
Totally.
But you have the appraiser, you have the FHA inspector, you have the title company, you have the seller's attorney, you have the borrower, you have the borrower's HR department for verification of employment. So much that goes on. Condo associations, they have to give you condo questionnaires that you're the bottom rung, and then your processor will call, but nobody's returning processor calls. They're going to return the loan officer's call, and it's complicated, man. And people try to automate, and what they automate is online lead client acquisition.
Right.
When you're going to mortgagecompany.com You're not cutting out a middleman, because that mortgage company is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on billboards and commercials to drive consumers to that mortgage.com company, where you're gonna get somebody on a headset. I'd rather the acquisition expense, right? The client acquisition expense be in a loan officer commission, because then they're going to nurture it and take care of it. And you're not going to see a difference in rate as the consumer. It's
Right,
just a
'cause
different path
right.
to that end product.
That's a
Sorry about that.
really, really strong point for all of our listeners to understand, is that that a lot of these companies, what they really are lead generation companies, and
That's
they're
right.
spending the money they would be spending to pay the commission. A lot of the loan officers, a lot of them are actually salaried, and so they're on a headset. There's
Right.
nothing inherently wrong with that, but how motivated are they to close a deal when
They're
they have no
not.
relation? Yeah, they have no relationship with the end
And you
user. Yeah.
and I'm not cutting you off, but to the point of that, it's not cheaper for the consumer.
Right.
Those commercials cost money. Those billboards cost money to drive the consumer to that website. Those headsets, those call centers, and those salaries cost money. And in fact, they cost more in basis points than a loan officer's basis points commission in most cases. And so you're not going to see any savings, and you're going to see a lot more frustration, because this is not like, hey, you're 35 and 5'5", so here's your interest rate and that's it. It's, you employed, Are you self-employed? How many K1s do you have? We need verification employed. How long you been employed? What's your credit score? Where does it fall? How much you borrow, and what's your loan to, and then they got to go sell that in secondary market. It's very complicated. You need a loan officer that is competent, that can handle all of these tricky things. And then, most importantly, be the person who's going to move the whole process along. Hey, seller's agent, we have not gotten title back to the attorney. You need to get a hold of them if you guys want this to close in the next 2 weeks. Hey, we have not heard from your insurance company, and we don't have the declaration. We need to know that they got proof of insurance, or we're not going to be able to give them the more. Hey, we have not gotten the condo association back. You got to do it. And that's what a lot of loan officers, good loan officers, are doing. And that's why that consumer direct portion of those online, call centers, they'll take in the application, but automating that stuff, it gets ignored by all the other parties that are supposed to send the documentation into you.
Yeah. That's a good point. And also, we're now just moving on, because I think you've just said it all there. So anyway, or just maybe to put a bow on that, a great opportunity to remember, as the agent, you are, especially working with a buyer, you are the knowledge source. You are the person that has information. So you need to be having those conversations with your buyers before they get their pre-qualification letter, or suggesting to them why they may want to talk to so-and-so from the lending institution that you have a relationship with, because these are things that, as a consumers don't understand, that a loan officer in person or one locally might be able to better serve them to then like you said, a mortgage.com type of online lead. They're not going to know that. So this is where the real estate agent will come in, because if you think about it, I shop for bank rates sometimes, because sometimes I just have some cash and I don't really need anything special done with it. And I just want to see which bank's giving me the best rate, because it's such a simple and no-brainer transaction. And I can literally just search best bank rates for, money market or whatever. And I could make that decision without talking to a banker. And it's so easy, and it's no big deal. That can be done. And so a lot of us are just we're always thinking about searching online for the best rate or the best whatever. When it comes to mortgages, I don't think the average consumer understands, even though they've been through it maybe multiple times. They don't understand how complicated that whole entire process is. So find a good loan officer. And we should probably, this is a great place to plug Midwest Lending. So tell us a little bit about Midwest Lending.
Midwest Lending is a mortgage bank. We're in Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Florida. And we pride ourselves on communicating with our borrowers and our agents, and every agent on the deal, and doing it multiple times a week, and keeping everybody apprised of what's going on and how everybody can participate and help out on the journey to get into the closing table. Because I'm going to tell you, whatever mortgage company is, we're going to need everybody to participate. And again, that's the attorneys, that's the agents, the borrowers, employees, and whatnot. And the more the agent is informed of what's going on in the process, the more they can help out and make a phone call, say, we need this documentation so we can get our clear to close, so we can go ahead and schedule the closing. So Midwest Lending it's a great organization. We have a number of loan officers in multiple states, and we work with real estate agents all over the country. And yeah, that's about us. And you know what? How about, I was just thinking of something, and thank you for letting me plug Midwest Lending. I appreciate it greatly. How about we transition, since we're moving in the last half hour, I sprinkle in a little coaching for our listeners here.
I'd love that. And we are now, at the time we're recording this, it'll probably come out we're in a week or so, but we are in December, early December at the time of this recording. And it is very easy. Even I have to sort of force myself to not get too caught up in the fun of the holiday to where I'm cutting corners at work or I'm spending less hours. It's very easy to do that. There's so much responsibility we have to family and friends and just, getting holiday cards out or whatever, all the little activities we're doing. And it is easy. And it's also a great, it's a time of year to take it easier if you wanted to, because it's probably less busy. You're probably getting less of those client calls, but what can agents do to really finish the end of this month strong? What could they start doing so that they don't lose that momentum?
So I was thinking about this over the weekend, and I was watching Michigan play Iowa. I don't know if you saw that game or not. And my friend's son is the freshman quarterback, JJ McCarthy. And, he's behind the starter, who I don't even know the starter is. I'm rooting for JJ. Gets put in once every 8 plays. He's so terrific. Watch out for that name. You'll see him in the NFL. And I was watching Harbaugh, coach and really getting in these kids. And I thought to myself, what is it that a coach provides somebody? What is it that a manager provides somebody that's going to the next level? What would you guess it would be, DJ?
So things that come to mind would be motivation. I actually I guess I would have said that before I got my own personal trainer for at the gym. And what I used to think was, oh, she's going to tell me what to do and she's going to keep me on target. And yes, she does those things, but that's not really for me the value. The value for me is with in particular with having a personal trainer is knowing to do the correct form and the fundamentals, and knowing anyone can do a deadlift, but are you doing it correctly? And I got injured when I used a personal trainer many years ago who wasn't very skilled. Now I have somebody that's skilled and costs a lot more, but boy, it's in the fundamentals and the foundation for me.
So when I was watching Harbaugh, it clicked to me, and I was thinking to myself, I said, the best of the best, and those that were worthy of receiving the best and best are open to receiving this. This is my opinion. It's discipline and structure.
Yeah.
And motivation is great, and people say I'm very motivating, and I appreciate it. And it's a compliment, but it's also, this is in a cliche. I've heard it before. Motivation's like a bath; it's going to wear off. Yeah. And there are people that are coachable, and there are people that they're not coachable. And you got to really look in the mirror, especially during this time, and say, am I going to keep my foot on the gas? And if there's somebody that's going to be doing that and helping me, am I coachable to really hear the cold, hard truth and be willing to accept discipline and structure so I could take myself to the next level, right? And there's a certain amount of people that I love and I care about, but they're not worthy of my discipline and structure because they're not going to take it. And the truth is us individuals, we hold so many people to a high level. Our UPS delivery person, right? The water delivery, the pizza guy. Did the pizza delivery come in here? Did it take, 45 minutes or 55 minutes? I've heard people yell about how it's taken so long for the pizza to come and all that other stuff. And the best of the best hold themselves accountable to that level. Yeah. And this is a time where I tell everybody, it's the end of the year. Don't be looking at the results. Stop looking at the results and stop tracking the results right now. The year's over. you need to be looking at your activities. You need to be looking at your actions. You need to have your blinders on, and the only thing you are focused on is your actions. And that's got to be like this for the next 60 days if you want to catch that mid-February spring market. There's always time, right? And whether it's the expression, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now. Well,
Right.
right now is where you need to say, I'm going to start. I got to look at my actions, my activities, stop looking at my results, get focused on my activities. And day by day, am I taking the right steps and reaching out to the right individuals and connecting with all the people in my network systematically, being habitual about it. And then the results are a simple byproduct of those activities. And I think that is what everybody should be doing right now, especially when the majority of us, which we may call our competition, is not doing it.
Yeah, this is a time where even the busiest, especially the busiest agents, maybe they are taking a bit of a break simply because this might be the only break they get in the year, and so they might be taking a well-deserved break. But for those of us that aren't, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but listen, you guys, discipline and structure is going to give you all the free time in the world. I just came back from a week's vacation. We all need a break. We all need to unwind and stop it. But if you're disciplined and structured in your 1 hour a day, that's not a lot.
No,
it really is not a lot. But add it over 52 weeks, it's a ton. And it didn't feel like a lot, but your results, right? Your results are going to put you at the pinnacle of your industry because you did not a lot, 1 hour, a lot throughout the year. If that makes any sense, what I just said.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because I know that, if I could take this month off from exercising, sure, I certainly would like to. But what's that going to look like for me in January when I come back? What kind of pain am I going to be putting myself through to get back in shape just because I took 2 weeks off? Can I take 2 weeks off? Sure. Is that a good idea for me when I'm going to have to go back to the gym and it's going to be more painful? And so I caution everyone to think about, sure, you can take it easy this December, and maybe you deserve it, and that's fine if it's intentional and if it's scheduled. But if you can also continue to put, as Ryan says, putting the blinders on and sort of almost forgetting that it's the December holidays at the end of the year and things are slow, if you can just remove those from your mind and go, well, I still have to work out today, or in this case, I still have to make my phone calls and check in with my clients. And also, by the way, great time to do that since it is the December holidays. And even if you're just calling them to say, hey, I just hope you're having a great rest of the year, and I was thinking about you. If that's all you did to everyone in your database, I bet that's more than they would expect.
Yeah, and if you're one of those individuals that aren't logging in your database once a week or once a day, right? And you're doing it, once a month, you're flying blind.
Yeah.
You're absolutely flying blind. And, I was telling somebody as coach today, you could be in this business for 10 years and eke out actually a decent living. Yeah. Right. But you're not going to be at the top. You're not going to be, and what do I mean by the top? Like, yeah, are you a success? Are you going to be happy at the top? No, but that's what we're talking about when we're coaching. And also it's like, don't be afraid of success, because it's not going to take more time. In fact, success gives you more time, and it gives you a lot more freedom.
And a lot more ability. Yeah, the freedom comes too in learning how to scale a business as well, and getting help when you get to a level where you can push through to that, find other people to assist you. But yeah, I mean, it's I think you and I are the same in this sense of, I always liked Coach John Wooden. He's like the only coach I even know in sports, but he was the UCLA guy. And if you don't know who Coach John Wooden is, just Google him. But I think he won 7 NCAA championships in a row. I think it was literally 7 in a row in the 60s, and I think maybe even early 70s. And then went on to win, I think, 11 out of 13 or something like that. He's the winningest coach in NCAA history. Anyway, he never looked at the scoreboard. And when I say he never looked at the scoreboard, he absolutely will tell you he never looked at the scoreboard, because he said that doesn't indicate to me whether we're winning or losing. And it's like, well, how does that happen? And it's not just a cute, catchy thing. He said, I just told every player, you'll walk off the court at the end of the game, and whatever the scoreboard says, you'll either know you did your best or you'll know you didn't. And you won't feel good even if we win, if you didn't do your best. And so I think that is such a great lesson, is just put the blinders on and do the fundamentals, do the things that you know 6 months from now are going to pay off, because it is going to be 6 months from now, 6 months from now. And, you know, like me, if I put the blinders on and just keep at the gym and keep doing the things at work that I'm supposed to do, we're going to keep growing our business here, and I'm going to keep getting stronger in the gym. And I won't have to go back in a month and go, oh, I should have worked out this last month and didn't, and now it's going to suck for a couple of weeks. Don't let that happen.
No, and tracking everything is important, right? So we have in our dashboard, we have a snapshot, and it tracks, you know, your cool, colds, and warms. It tracks your active clients. So your prospects are graded cool, cold, and warm. There's volumes next to them, and there's timing next to them. Then your actives, right? And the type of actives you have, then your pending, and then your sales. We also have another bar chart that's called the forecast, which essentially takes your warm only, not your cools and colds, adds them with your actives and adds them with your pending, and then adds them with your close, and it'll give you a forecast for what your year is going to look like. So with a lot of people now, we're goal setting again. And we're going to look at those snapshots that we have in their dashboards, and you know, we're going to talk about it for a few minutes, right? And say, hey, look, you know, you have, you know, $7 million of cold. Cold means closing next calendar year. That's fantastic. And look at, you have another $4 million that are already active. That, you know, if they transact, it's probably going to be transacting in late December or January. So you're already looking at $11 million year. And then we look at, okay, where did the majority of this come from? Are these coming from purchase web leads? Are these coming from your network? Are these coming from your network referring you? And then most of us see that 80 to 90% of it comes either from the network or the network referring them. And then you're able to parlay that into a lesson and be like, all right, great. Now let's get to work. Let's get back to your network tab. Let's look at these 385 people that are in here. Let's go to the filter and let's see who hasn't heard from you this quarter. Who has not heard from you since, you know, September 30th? All right, there's 100 people. Great. There's 100 people that you have not talked to in 3 months. 16% of them are going to transact next year. That's 16 potential transactions, not to mention that each one of those 100 people that you haven't talked to in a quarter, know 4 people that are going to buy or sell. So that's another potential 400 referrals. So how much are you missing out on by not being aware of those statistics and not being aware of your activities? Okay, great. It's December 6th, because right now it is December 6th. I know they'll be listening to this a week from now, but you know, you've got basically 20 days to reach out to those 100 people, you know,
and you have a lot of things to say when you talk to these people. Now it's the December holidays. By the way, if you don't know what holiday your sphere of influence, each person in your contact list, your CRM celebrates or doesn't celebrate, you should know that, because Hanukkah, I think, just wrapped up a couple days ago. I have one of my closest friends celebrates Hanukkah, he and his family. And so I don't celebrate Hanukkah, but I reached out to him on day 5. And just as a funny thing, I said, hey, happy day 5. We've been friends forever. And just thought it would be funny on day 5 to say happy Hanukkah. But I also wanted to wish him happy Hanukkah, because I go, oh my God, I forgot to wish Justin a happy Hanukkah. So on day 5, I sent him a message, and I said, and he laughed back and said, hey, thanks for remembering. And then I said, hey, just out of curiosity, how many people who are not Jewish, you know, I'm not Jewish. And I said, how many people who, you know, don't celebrate Hanukkah reached out to you, aside from your family and whatever, anyone, you know, really close to you? How many friends or whatever reached out and said happy Hanukkah? And he goes, you're the only one. and so I thought, boy, you know, what a great opportunity for our listeners to know, you know, do your clients celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, any of the December holidays? Do they not celebrate those? And if they don't, and if they have, you know, different beliefs, then what are you doing to acknowledge, you know, them? And you don't have to get that, you don't have to be afraid, but you should know this information. Or, hey, rates are creeping up on the lending world. Is this a great time to talk to our homeowners about maybe we should have a conversation about where rates are headed. Now, it doesn't mean that has to drive the conversation, but it's certainly a reason to pick up the phone and start a conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's break it down. Let's look at what we're just talking about with that particular agent, right? Who's got 4 million in active buyers and sellers currently, and $7 million of cool prospects, right? And forget the amount of money that they got pending that's closing in January, just $11 million right there. And you look at their dashboard, they have 385, but 100 of them have not heard from them since the third quarter, right? Because it gives you all the data. And there's 20 more days in the month, because I'm taking out a couple of days for Christmas, New Year's, and all that fun stuff, right? So there's 20 more days in the month. Well, 120, it's 5. It's only 5 a day. I mean, that's not a lot. So it's only 5 a day. And then, guess what? Facebook and Instagram is going to tell you what to talk to them about. People are posting once a week on there, and all you got to do is just comment on whatever they said. Don't write on their wall. Send them a direct message or text. How you doing? Be their friend. That's their job, because people want a real estate agent and a loan officer that's their friend, because that's who they trust. And then you're going to take them through the process. All right. But you're not going to take them through the process if they're not friends with you. They may say, oh, he was a buddy of mine. Sure. I haven't talked to him in 3 years. I'm not going to call him. I'm going to talk to this other real estate agent. I see their billboard. I get their postcards. I don't have a relationship with them, but I trust them because they're doing their marketing. Where I don't even, well, I think the marketing is incredibly important, but you know what? If I'm doing my live flow with you and you're hearing from me once a month, I'm going to beat on any billboard, any postcard, any online lead, because I'm your friend. And that's who people are going to hire. And they have not been able to prove that wrong. All the billions of dollars going into online lead acquisitions and everything else, what they've been able to do is to prove most real estate agents won't put in the time and effort to take care of those relationships. And therefore, that online purchase business does have a room in our industry, but it has a room in our industry because the lack of activities most agents spend, doing the right activities, if that makes sense.
I mean, you're so right. And I'm just thinking back to these fundamentals. We always come back to fundamentals. It's like, if all you did was somehow communicate with everyone in your sphere once a month, it doesn't have to be a phone call, as Ryan said, it could be a text, it could be, an email, it could be a direct message, it could be a flyer or whatever. Just they're hearing from you in some capacity that they're seeing once a month. That's going above and beyond probably 90, I don't know, I'm just making this number up, 95% of all other agents out there, probably like 99%.
Yeah.
So if that's all you decide to do, boy, I'd love to have somebody call after doing that for a year, having not done that in their previous years, and hearing the results. Well, I mean, this is all you talk about.
That's what I tell everybody, be most critical about your activities, not about yourself, right? I mean, we're all hard on ourselves as it is. I mean, gosh, I was watching, flying home yesterday. I was watching that Anthony Bourdain, a documentary. I don't know if you saw it or not, but
no, I haven't yet.
Did you? Well, it's moving, right? And it's, and it really reminds me of the real human struggle that we all battle with, right? The feelings of inadequacy and all that stuff that we have to acknowledge is out there, and that's real. Okay. However, talking about that 1%, right? We're joking, probably more than 98%, 99% of the real estate agents do it. It's true. And if you look at the discrepancy between the haves and the have-not just in real estate, but the industry below, it comes down to the activities and the consciousness that people are, how aware they are of themselves. And as Robin Sharman says, are you busy being busy, or are you busy being productive? 99% of us are just busy being busy. 1% choose to be busy being productive. And that's what we're talking about. And that's why every time I come in and coach, I'm going to be talking about the same shit over and over again, because that's what people have to. Right. There is no new triple Lindy backflip, cartwheel social media video that's going to capture all this new business for you. It's relationships, people. It's having multiple relationships, and having multiple relationships is a job. It's a work. It's a work in progress, and you need to track your activities. You need to do them daily. And then you could get to all the busy stuff after you set some time aside to do that stuff, which is creating the relationships that's working on your business. And that's what's going to give you your freedom and flexibility in the future, because you'll have more clients and you know what to do with, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's always activity over results, because results almost always come as a result of activity. And
Well, yeah,
yeah,
it is. And Angela Duckworth also said this, which I love. I'll take effort over talent any day of the week.
oh, me
I
too.
see talented people all the time, but the effort's just not there. And I've seen people that don't have the talent, but man, they got the effort. And guess what? They're that 1%.
It's always funny to me. It's a moment that happens on most of the episodes. Maybe not most, but I would say, I don't know, somewhere in the 50% range, but where I'm talking to, it could actually happen in the pre-interview, so the audience wouldn't necessarily see this, but it happens a lot on the show, where we'll be talking and I'll say, well, what do you think makes you different? You, Mr. or Mrs. Top Producer, versus, other people that struggle or leave the industry. And usually it's a pause and a look of confusion, because they want to come up with something that's quite profound, or maybe hasn't been said before. And I say, well, and then I sometimes have to keep going, because they might go, well, I don't really know what I do that's so different, because to them, they're just running the business as they see fit. But a lot of times they'll say something about intelligence. They'll say, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not smarter than my cohort, my peers, my competitors. And most of the brokers I talk to seem to have that belief that they are not inherently more skilled at being a realtor, in the sense of treating the client well and taking them through the transaction. They don't seem to be geniuses at being a realtor. They seem to be very hardworking, disciplined, consistent individuals. And that seems to be, it's kind of the boring message that everybody I interview pretty much says, but there's a reason why everybody says it.
I heard this. I've never met Mario Greco in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never seen him speak or anything, but one agent said to me 7 years ago, they went and saw him speak at like a Chicago, at a car thing. And he's got a team, right? He's got a huge team, I believe. Again, I don't know the man. All right. But here's what I heard an agent tell me that she heard him say. Refers his clients out to his team, and he has buyer's agents, and buyer's agents work with the clients and they close the deal. And then he has in his system that after they close, he makes sure he calls them every 2 weeks for 6 months in a row to see if they're happy, how the house is, whatever else. And that generates more leads for him that he then goes out to the buyer agents to go run around, work with the buyer's agents, and he stays back at the house or the office making the relationship calls. And it's like fucking brilliant.
Brilliant.
That is brilliant. And that's how it's done.
And it's how it's done. And it's actually very simple, right? It's not that complicated. What you would need to do to build that structure is obviously a calendar. Wow. All you would need to do, if you're like, well, what do I say every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Go online and say, what do home buyers need to know after they've moved in? And that'll give you a list of talking points. And even if it's just, you don't have a talking point, just checking in. It's been a month. Congratulations. It's been 30 days. How's everything still going? If that's all you're saying. Yeah.
It takes the D word. It takes discipline. It takes discipline. It takes self-discipline,
Yeah.
And, I think for us to maybe close on the listeners here, it's like, anybody here who wants it can have it. Are you willing to be conscious at least 1 to 2 hours a day of what's important to do? And then are you willing to do it? And when you don't want to do it and you're getting busy, just doing busy work, are you honest with yourself that you're just neglecting what is the most important thing to your business to keep you either in this business or keep you on the top? Because it just comes down to all of us being self-aware and self-disciplined on what we have to do, because the activities and the actions are simple. They're so simple that I'm almost embarrassed that I'm repeating them over and over again. I'm like, gosh, DJ, do I have better material for you? I don't feel I'm worthy for this coaching call, but the actions aren't that earth-shattering. They just got to be consistent.
Well, I just got back from the gym, and I've been with my trainer for 1.5 years now, and we do the same 20 exercises a week that we rotate, and we try once in a while. I'll get to a level where she's like, okay, we got to do something new, but it's really all just variations of the exact same thing. And yes, is it boring? Well, sure, parts of it can be, but but thank goodness it's not complicated. It's still
Right.
hard, but it's not complicated. And if all you did, like you were saying with that individual, has 100 people to contact between now and the end of the year, 5 calls a day, that's real doable. That is very, very, this whole business is very doable if you just break it down into the daily activities. And, that's the one best thing I ever heard from Brian Buffini is win the day. How do I win the day? Well, I talked to 5 people and it wasn't, I closed a deal. It was, I talked to 5 people. I took care of the clients that I already have and, whatever else. But you just need to know what do you need to win the day? And it's usually outreach. It's almost always outreach.
That's exactly right.
Awesome. Well, what a great place to wrap up. We should also make a quick mention that if you are in, and I forgot that Ryan is now in Florida, or Ryan's companies are now in Florida as well. But if you are in Illinois, let's see, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Florida, am I missing any? Are those the?
No, I'm actually heading down to our holiday party next week to Florida, so I'm excited for that as well.
So if you are an agent or if you're a loan officer in those areas and you're looking maybe to find a firm that is going to offer you actual coaching, April Properties, that's what they do. What's the best way they should reach out, Ryan?
They could log on, they go to our website, theaprilproperties.com. You could give me a phone call. I'm actually working with agents that just pick up the phone, they Googled me and they called my cell phone. And I'm incredibly accessible. So, if you want to just have a dialogue, pick up the phone and give me a call. We can talk about it.
Awesome. Well, everyone, please go visit daprilproperties.com. That's DAPRILE properties.com. And as always, we want to thank Ryan on behalf of all of our audience for continuing to listen, support our show, and also just staying with us every month. We appreciate, Ryan, your time. And on behalf of Ryan and myself, also a big thank you to the audience for continuing to tell a friend. Just think of one other agent. That'll be your holiday gift to us. Think of one other agent that could benefit from hearing this coaching moment with Ryan, and send a link to from this episode to your friend. And you can always just send them right over to our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or have them pull up whatever app they're using for podcasts and do a search for Keeping It Real and hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. Ryan, we will see you in 2022. Boy, that's amazing. Time goes by so quick.
Yeah.
So, I got things I need to get. I need to not take my foot off the gas on the show and in my business the rest of the year. So this was a great reminder to me to not cut corners right now, when everyone else probably is starting to think to do that. So great reminder. All right, everyone.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Have a happy new year. Thank you as well. And we're excited to have Ryan on as well in 2022. So thanks, Ryan, and everyone else who's listening on the show. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, CJ.